Enterprise's evil Vulcans secretly followed Star Trek, TNG's Klingon retcon. When Star Trek Enterprise first launched in 2001, the prequel series immediately sparked debate about how its vision of the 22nd century aligned or didn't align with the larger Trek canon. Nowhere was this tension more pronounced than with the depiction of the Vulcans. Fans were accustomed to the wise, logical mentors of the Federation embodied by Spock, Sarek, and Tuvok. But in Enterprise, Vulcans were cold, manipulative, and at times outright obstructive to humanity's growth. Many viewers criticized this as a betrayal of the Vulcan ideals Gene Roddenberry had established. Yet, when viewed through the lens of Star Trek's own evolving approach to continuity, Enterprise's evil Vulcans were less a betrayal and more a deliberate echo of a narrative move Star Trek, The Next Generation, had already made with the Klingons. The Klingon transformation from the original series' scheming villains into TNG's honorable warrior culture was one of Trek's biggest retroactive continuity retcon shifts. In a strange way, Enterprise mirrored that very process with the Vulcans, setting up a long-game explanation for why Vulcans would eventually become the benevolent allies humanity expected. The so-called evil Vulcans of Enterprise weren't a mistake. They were a storytelling strategy that secretly followed the Klingon retcon blueprint. The Klingon retcon, from villains to allies. To understand what Enterprise was doing, it's worth revisiting the Klingon retcon. In the original series, Klingons were little more than thinly veiled stand-ins for Cold War adversaries. They were ruthless, cunning, and militaristic villains in nearly every appearance. Their look was minimal too, swarthy makeup, sinister beards, and little else to distinguish them beyond their aggression. But when The Next Generation premiered in 1987, audiences encountered a startlingly different vision of the Klingons. With elaborate prosthetics, a rich honor-bound warrior code, and a complex relationship with the Federation, Klingons were transformed from two-dimensional antagonists into one of Trek's deepest cultures. Worf's presence as a main character gave fans a chance to explore Klingon tradition, philosophy, and contradictions in detail. This was a massive retcon. TOS Klingons and TNG Klingons are essentially two different species stitched together by decades of lore. Later series DS9, Voyager, and even films leaned into this richer portrayal, with in-universe explanations offered for their changing appearance. Enterprises augment virus arc and political shifts. What was once a simplistic villain became a textured, nuanced culture. In short, Trek reinvented the Klingons by first making them antagonistic, then revealing deeper layers that reframed their entire place in the galaxy. Vulcans and Enterprise, from allies to obstacles. Now compare that with Vulcans and Enterprise. By the 22nd century, humanity had just begun venturing into deep space. Yet Vulcans, traditionally humanity's mentors and allies, were portrayed as condescending, manipulative, and even duplicitous. Instead of encouraging Earth's progress, they seemed determined to hold humanity back, dictating when and where humans could explore. Ambassador Soval routinely criticized Starfleet's readiness, while Vulcan High Command meddled in human politics. This shocked fans used to the calm wisdom of Spock or Tuvok. Some accused Enterprise of ruining Vulcans. But in reality, the show was laying the groundwork for a cultural transformation akin to what happened with the Klingons. In episodes like The Andorian Incident, Vulcans were revealed to have secret military outposts disguised as monasteries. In Kirshara, we learn that Vulcan society had drifted from the teachings of Surak, their great philosopher. Vulcan leaders were corrupt, hypocritical, and deeply suspicious of both humans and Andorians. By design, Enterprise depicted Vulcans not as the paragons of logic we knew, but as a flawed society waiting for reform. Evil first, noble later. The same storytelling arc. Here's where the parallels to the Klingon retcon become clear. Step 1. Villainous baseline. Just as TOS Klingons were framed as ruthless enemies, Enterprise's Vulcans were depicted as antagonistic, arrogant, and even oppressive toward humanity. Step 2. Introduce complexity. TNG added depth to Klingons through Worf, exploring honor, tradition, and politics. Likewise, Enterprise complicated Vulcans by showing the political corruption within their high command and the existence of dissenters who sought a purer form of Surak's logic. Step 3. Cultural redemption. The Klingons eventually emerged as uneasy but honorable allies of the Federation. In Enterprise, Vulcans went through their own redemption arc. The Kir'Shara was rediscovered, leading to sweeping reforms that restored Vulcan society to Surak's teachings. By the end of the series, Vulcans were positioned to become the wise mentors audiences remembered. Both arcs used an initial negative portrayal as a narrative springboard. The Klingons were rehabilitated by being made more complex. The Vulcans were rehabilitated by being reminded of their true ideals. Why fans reacted differently? If Enterprise was deliberately following the Klingon retcon model, why did fans react so negatively at the time? Several factors played into this. 1. Expectations were reversed. Fans expected Vulcans to already be the noble allies they knew from Kirk and Spock's era. Making them antagonists felt like a betrayal rather than an evolution. By contrast, Klingons in TOS were always enemies, so deepening them was welcome. 2. No Worf equivalent. Worf gave viewers an inside perspective on Klingon culture. His struggles made Klingons relatable. Enterprise lacked a Vulcan equivalent for much of its run. Topol came closest, but her outsider status and personal struggles didn't fully represent her people. 3. Prequel problem. Enterprise had to align with continuity fans already knew. Because audiences were so familiar with Vulcan's eventual good reputation, their antagonism felt more like inconsistency than foreshadowing. The payoff. Vulcan redemption in Enterprise. Despite the backlash, Enterprise committed to its long-game storytelling. The fourth season arc, culminating in Kir'Shara, delivered the Vulcan redemption. By recovering Surak's teachings, Vulcan society purged its corruption and set itself back on the path of true logic. This arc retroactively made sense of Enterprise's earlier portrayal. The evil Vulcans weren't evidence that the writers misunderstood Vulcans. They were the necessary foil for a story about cultural rediscovery. Just as TNG's honorable Klingons reframed the villains of TOS, Enterprise's corrupted Vulcans reframed themselves through reform, becoming the mentors humanity would later know. By the end of the series, Vulcans and humans were on firmer footing, with their relationship resembling the partnership that would blossom into the Federation. In a way, Enterprise pulled off the Vulcan version of the Klingon retcon, albeit in reverse order. Deep canon resonance. The brilliance of this strategy is how well it aligns with Star Trek's broader themes. Both Klingons and Vulcans represent cultures struggling with their ideals versus their realities. The Klingons, obsessed with honor, often failed to live up to their own code. The Vulcans, obsessed with logic, often twisted it into authoritarianism. By showing these flaws, Trek avoided presenting its alien species as static archetypes. Instead, they were dynamic civilizations capable of reform, contradiction, and growth. What Enterprise proved.